Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Career Advice You Never Had podcast, where I provide you the career advice, education, and support you missed out on in your career journey. I'm your host, Angela, a career development practitioner, and today we're going to go through a mid-year check-in. So welcome to everyone who's joined. This will be a chance for you to stop, pause, reflect, and reset for the rest of 2026. And this is being recorded and uploaded on both Spotify and YouTube. So if you are more of a visual and would like to see the slides, head over to YouTube through the link in the show notes. So let's get into it. Today I'll be taking you through a mindfulness activity where you can connect to the present moment. You will get a chance to reflect on the year so far, take stock, and if you have set a one-word intention, you may look at it to see if it needs changing, or if you haven't, you may like to set a one-word intention for the rest of the year, and that I will support you to prepare for the journey ahead. So if you haven't got yourself a pen, a notepad, and a glass of water, and if you find yourself somewhere nice and comfy, if you need to hit pause at all, please do so during the workshop today, that this is for you to go at your own pace and move through this in your own way. You might like to listen to it all the way through and then come back. It's up to you how you work through today's session. The first part that we will move into is a mindfulness activity. And we're going to take a moment now to stop and turn inward as we check in with how you're doing. We're going to be focusing on your breathing. So in your nice, comfortable position, take a moment to notice the breath as it goes in and out. We're just observing for the moment. And when you feel ready, if your eyes aren't closed, feel free to close them if that feels right for you. As you notice the rise of your belly, the expansion of your rib cage, all the way to the top of the chest, which will be our three-part breathing that I'll take you through in a moment. As you feel yourself relaxing even further. So the three-part breathing is going to be going through the breath as it makes its way into the belly, the ribs, and the chest. And I'm going to take you through 3 rounds of breathing. We're not going to be forcing the breath. We're just going to be filling up the body like that big balloon. As you breathe into your tummy, let it expand. Can you also expand those ribs all the way to the top of the chest? And then, like that balloon that we let go, can you let that air out? As you breathe into the tummy, let that expand, expanding those ribs all the way to the top of the chest, all the way through those pecs, and then letting that breath go. One more into the tummy, ribs, all the way to the top, right up into the throat, and letting that breath go. And take a moment to come back to the natural rhythm of your breath. As you leave your attention turned inwards, to just notice, how was that breathing for you? Have you felt a shift at all within? Have you noticed yourself relaxing even further and getting nice and comfortable where you are, noticing what comes to mind? And when you're ready, giving your toes a bit of a wiggle, those fingers, as you bring yourself back into the room, into this moment. And you might even like to start making a note on your notepad or within your journal around how that activity was for you and how you're feeling now. The year so far, we're already at the halfway mark of the year, and most people at this time will go, where did the year go? And so we're going to go back to the beginning of the year. Maybe January or February was a time where you may have thought about the year ahead, and you may have had intentions or goals or things that you wanted to achieve. I wonder, what were your intentions for 2026? If you take yourself back. As you're looking at your intentions, what were your hopes for the year? Has anything gone well so far? Sometimes our intentions were set and we may have headed a different direction, or things have come into our lives that we weren't expecting. And I'd like to know what has gone well in 2026 so far. And was there anything that you have accomplished? Have you taken steps forward? Maybe they were small steps forward, maybe they were big. And maybe that was towards a goal, or maybe just life in general, that you felt like you have accomplished something. So, what have you accomplished so far? I purposely like to start with what went well, only because our brains are wired to look for challenges and things that maybe haven't gone as well. We do still want to acknowledge these because this is where we may have felt really stretched in the year so far. Maybe there was something that you have experienced as a challenge, and let's also note that down. What challenges have you experienced in 2026 so far? And what has been the biggest challenge? Maybe you've had a couple of challenging moments, and maybe there's one that does stand out just a little bit more for some particular reason. How have those experiences, whether they're achievements or challenges or and challenges, how have they shaped your year so far? And let's take it one step further. When we have been through something, we're going to use the words to describe that as change. So what type of change have you been through? So you've talked about your achievements, you've talked about your challenges, and has there been a defining moment of change to your situation as a result of that experience or that challenge or that achievement? Because change is an event. It is external to us. It's our situation. It's something that has happened. And we can sometimes see that there was a defining point where things were different after that particular change and moment in your life. And it may have caused a shift internally and also externally. Change is a bit more visible and tangible. We can have words to describe it. And it can be easily labeled as maybe you've had health challenges. Maybe you had a baby. Maybe you changed jobs. Maybe you moved house. Maybe you went on a holiday. Maybe you had some unexpected health news or a divorce, or there was something, a defining moment of change, and we can label it quite easily. Change is a normal part of life, and it's something that is constant and is a needed process. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a few different types of change. It could be expected, that it was predictable, that you knew that it was going to happen, that something was going to come to an end. Maybe there was something unexpected that was a bit more disruptive that you weren't planning. Maybe the change was slow burning, where you saw it on the horizon. Or maybe the change was a non-event, where you thought something would happen and it didn't eventuate. An example of this one is that you thought you were going to buy that particular house and it all fell through. Maybe you went through a surrogate change where someone close to you was going through change and it set you into change as well. And you've also got sleeper change, which occurs gradually without us even noticing. It happens in the background and develops over time. And you've got counter changes. There's so many changes going on, it can be really normal that when it rains, it pours, and it can be quite an intense and heavy period of different types of change, all happening very close together. As I mentioned before, change can be seen as positive or negative. As you think back to the year so far, do you have a defining moment? And can you explain your change? Another way to think of change as well, sometimes we use the language of the timing of the change. Was it on time or off time? Now that we may also be in a little bit of hindsight as well. So how was the timing of the change? Change is the external event that has happened. What that does is it sets off an internal transition. This is our inner journey brought on by the change. And this is where we go through the emotional, psychological process. It is more mental, and it is about that emotional transformation triggered by the change. So we can usually feel it within us. We do individually go through an inner process that can be very different to other people who are also experiencing the same change as you. The inner process is usually what is really hard to come to terms with. It is a bit more hidden and as I mentioned, unique. Because it's that internal process, sometimes it's harder to describe. Other times we may need to have gone through a little bit of the transition to be able to find the words. As I talk about the different stages that we can be moving in, and this is through Nancy Skolsberg's transition theory, where we can be moving through different stages, where we come to an ending and we move in, and knowing that we can all be in different places and be going through at different paces as well. For some people, it can take not long at all, days, other people weeks, other people months and years. And that as you move through, that you may also transition through different stages at different moments. So it's not always linear. However, at some point, we do need to move in and something does come to an end, whether we acknowledge it in the moment and we say our long goodbye and we let go of the old and of the life that we once knew. At some point in time, we do have to move into our transition and let go and say goodbye. We've also got the moving through stage where it's that described as that messy middle, the neutral zone, full of uncertainty, ambiguity. And this is where it can be really challenging. And a lot of people find that this one is where they can feel disorientated, disconnected from their old life, yet not connected even to the present or the future. As they move through the transition, it's about reorientating yourself to a new normal and familiarizing yourself with the new and also making sense of it as well. And this is the most uncomfortable stage for most people, and most people want to skip over maybe this stage or one of them. So just notice as I talk about these stages, there may be one that you feel like you are in at the moment, or you may even be in between stages as well. And the last stage that you can see on the screen, remember, no particular order, is moving out. So this is where we are ready for what's going to come next, or maybe not as ready as we hoped yet. The new beginning, where we do need to reinvent ourselves, and this may be the launch into new activities, a new way of life. This is where we may have inner signs that really point to the direction that we're going to head in. Some people might call it the light at the end of the tunnel, that we do have to go through all of the stages in the transition, even though you may want to avoid one. If we don't fully go through the stages, the next time we go into a transition, we'll probably be put straight back into the one that we haven't fully processed from the last transition. So I wonder, what stage are you at in your transition from the change that you described was the most defining for you in the year so far? And to go a little bit deeper, I really like this visual, and that as people move through different stages, you may also be feeling that sort of psychological tension and stress that you may be going through, especially if the change was unexpected or even a non-event. Life didn't go the way that you had planned. And so as we move through and take care of ourselves at this time, it is also great to bring to your awareness one of these particular frameworks or cycles that people can experience. And it's really common to feel the grief cycle. The Kubler-Ross change curve is a really great visual to show you. And if you're not on YouTube, I'll do my best to describe it, that this model really helps us understand how people can cope with significant changes in their life as they move through different stages. Once again, these stages are not linear. We may circle through stages, we may skip stages, and then even cycle back through. That we've got the words denial, shock, anger, bargaining, depression, understanding, and acceptance. As you're moving in, you're moving through, and you're moving out, notice if any of this resonates with you as well. Do you feel like you have been through stages in that grief cycle? And is anything standing out as to where you may be now, if this has really resonated for you? Because the transition can really stir up a lot of emotions. And on the screen at the moment, I have this lovely coloured emotion wheel that shows that at the same time, we may be excited about our change and our transition. And at the same time, we might also be exhausted as well. We may have moments of pride and overwhelm, and we could have lots of emotions mixed in together. And so pay attention how you describe the process if you write in your journal or you talk about it with people, and notice how you may be moving through different emotions or getting stuck in certain ones as well. Or maybe this particular slide, if you can see it, may give, as we were talking about before, the inner process, the transition, may be hard to describe it. Maybe there's a word on here that helps make sense of where you are at the moment. And it's really normal to feel a range of emotions or to move through the grief cycle. It's about flowing through them, that these are unavoidable. We're going to have those mix of emotions. And if we can do a bit of emotional pinpointing and describe what we are feeling at different moments in time, can be really helpful as a strategy to cope. Your emotional journey. Have you been on one? Are there a couple of words or quite a few that were mixed in along your journey? And where are you now? The year so far, there may have been people that have been your biggest supporters. They may have been there through the thick and the thin. And I wonder, as you look back in hindsight, is there someone or a group of people in particular that have been your biggest support, that make you smile, that make you feel nice and warm inside? Looking back in hindsight over the last 6 months, what has been your biggest lesson learnt? As you take a big deep breath and maybe shake out the first 6 months, we're going to land now in where you are in this moment. You may be doing this somewhere around the middle of the year. So where are you now? We're going to do some activities now that will get you to take stock of 4 areas of your life. And if you've been here before, they are always the same areas, yet you might notice that they mean different things to you when we tap into the word wellness, career, love, and play. We're going to give them a rating. And if you have done this in the past with me and you have access to your notes, it'd be really good to know how far you've come compared to where you were 6 months ago, or if you've done this over the last few years with me, where you've been and where you are now with these different areas in your life. The way that we go through this is noting down love. What does love mean to you at this time? Take a few notes around maybe people, places, things, or a feeling. What does love mean to you? And then the scale that I have on the screen, you can see that it goes from 1 to 10. Where do you sit on that scale where 1 is not so good and 10 being amazing? Where do you sit with love? And wellness. What does wellness mean to you? And how would you rate your wellness at the moment from 1 to 10? And the word career. What does the word career mean to you at this time in your life? And rate that from a 1 to a 10. And the last area, play. What does play mean to you? What comes to mind as you also rate it from 1 to 10? And now that you've done a little bit of reflection, we're going to get a little bit curious. Looking back over those ratings, with that curious mind and without judgment, which number has the lowest? Which number has the highest? Are there any patterns? And as you look at those numbers, there may be one particular area that you would like as your focus. And if we think about where you are now and what that number means to you, sometimes when we have it at maybe a 4 out of 10, you might also like to note why it wasn't a 0. If that was the area that you were to focus on, take note of that because we'll be using that later on in the session. Sometimes when we do these ratings and we have a particular focus area that we would like to start closing the gap between. What we'll be going into soon, we'll be looking at where you'd like to be. So when I think of the gap of where you are today and where you'd like to be in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, we're going to start tapping into that one soon. Before we get there, let's do a little bit more exploration into where you are in your life at the moment. We all go through different stages in life, and I like this sentence starter to see where it takes you. I'm at a time in my life when. Can you finish that sentence? Maybe you have a particular role in your life that is changing or has changed. Maybe you have responsibilities that are changing, relationships, maybe routines have been changed. And maybe even your assumptions for the future have also changed because of that moment in your life or the stage of the transition that you are in as well. Maybe you are moving through and you're at a time in your life when you're letting go of things that no longer resonate with you. Maybe you're at a time in your life when you're moving through that messy middle bit and you need to come back to what's important to you as you reinvent yourself, as you may also be at a time in your life when you are creating that new beginning. What time of your life are you at? If you're seeing my slide at the moment, I have a nice big blue circle with the words you in the center. And I'd love for you to place you at the center of your transition, your career, your well-being, your life today, knowing the things that you can control at this time and understanding more about yourself at this time in your life, the stage of the transition that you're moving through can be really helpful for you to reorientate yourself or to let go of things or to launch into that new beginning. There's a few prompt questions that I'll read out to help you understand more about you at this time. The first one is, what's important to me? What are your priorities? What do you value? What do I enjoy? What makes you smile? What are you interested in now? What brings you joy? And what are you good at? Maybe you have a skill or a strength or a talent or a passion that you love doing. And what do you want at this time in your life? And what do you need? These are important questions to keep coming back to when you're going through and moving through a change and transition in your life. So we've had a look at the past 6 months. We've taken stock of where you are now, and we're going to slowly start looking to the future. And we're going to do this by tapping into an intention. And if you've been here with me before, you know all about intentions. And if you haven't, I'll give a quick overview. An intention is an inward-driven approach. It's what guides you in that present moment, can give you direction, and it's about how you want to be, live, and feel each day. An intention setting is a practice of identifying, clarifying your values, your aspirations, and your desired way of being, and then aligning your actions, your goals, and opportunities with that intention. It is a way to focus your energy on what truly matters and create a life that aligns with your deepest desires. It is different to resolutions because intentions are more about the journey and how you want to experience those steps that you take towards a goal, or how you want to show up when you fulfill those action steps. And so this one here is more focused on the journey and the process rather than the specific outcome. And it's about how you want to show up in the world. Goals are very outward driven, and actions are those things that you do every day, and the opportunities are what you draw in based on your intentions. So let's ground you in how you want to show up every day, the energy that you want to bring to each moment with a one-word intention. We're going to get to that shortly. First of all, I would like you to tap into, and this is where you can find your own language that makes sense for you, which means the same thing. Maybe you are someone who has hopes for the future. Maybe you've got a dream, a vision, a goal. Maybe you have aspirations or a deeper why that is motivating you to move towards something or want to achieve something. When we think about our hopes or our dreams or our visions or our goals or our aspiration or that why as that driver, that's about the motivation that may be internal or external. There's no right or wrong if you're focusing on an internal hope or dream or vision, or an external hope or dream or vision as well. It's good to know what is motivating us. Are we being pulled towards something, or is something pushing us away and motivating us to maybe move away from something? What I'm getting you to do is to have a look at the bigger picture. And if you are someone that likes to plan for the future and see how far you've come, these sessions are really good to take note of every 6 months, where you've been, where you'd like to go. And sometimes when we go through change might reduce the amount of vision for the future that we have. And if you've been through change, you might resonate with, if you're going through something that is stressful or even exciting, you may only be able to focus on the next hour, the next day. And as we slowly move through and the stress or the excitement starts to ease a little bit, we can then see to the next week, and we can start planning for the next month. And eventually we can get to a real stable time where we can look ahead to the next 12 months and 5 years or even 10 years. And depending on your situation or the transition that you're in at the moment and the change that you've been through, what can also happen is that your assumptions for the future may have shifted and changed. And we've talked about that reorientation of yourself, which may mean your hopes, your dreams, your vision, your goals for the future, or those aspirations might have slightly altered. And what used to feel really clear may also at the moment feel a little bit blurry, or because of the change and transition you're going through, maybe it's made something really clear that you were thinking about it previously, the clarity wasn't there. And sometimes when we go through change, especially if it's a big life-altering change, it makes things really clear. It puts things into perspective and our priorities get sorted really quickly. And so I'm wondering, are you able to tap into the future? Do you have a vision, a goal, or a dream at this point in time, or has it shifted slightly? And you may be wondering, well, what is possible now? What are my options? What direction do I want to head in? So take a little bit of time knowing what's coming to mind as you think about the future. And what I've hopefully been doing throughout this session is, as we're thinking of an intention, a certain energy within yourself. It may be a feeling that you might be noticing within you around where you've been, where you are now, where you'd like to go. And we're trying to capture that one-word intention, a way to sum up the rest of the year. How would you like to show up every day? The energy that you want to bring that will move you towards where you want to go. And so how do you want to show up every day? If you were to describe that in one word, I wonder, is anything popping to mind yet? If you were to write anything down, remember, no filter, no judgment. What is coming up for you? You could be tapping into those areas of your life, maybe that focus area. There's a particular word to describe how you'd like to show up so that you can move towards a more desired state. Knowing that this can be a theme for the rest of the year, and it's going to create that alignment that you may be looking for. And it may even connect in with different areas of your life as well. And if you did have an intention for the beginning of the year, has things changed? And that's okay as well. Sometimes you might carry through the same intention, even if it's longer than the last 6 months. It's going to be unique to you and your situation and your time of your life and the change and transition that you're going through. Is there a word that comes to mind? And if you're following on YouTube, I do have a page full of words that if you need a little bit of help to describe how you want to show up every day, is it compassion? Is it fearless? Is it with purpose, balance, clarity, patience? Is it about learning? Is it about exploring or possibility or even honesty? I wonder, is there anything? And sometimes you might have two words, and feel free to pause at any point if you also need to look up the meaning of words. So you may have to think about this one and do a little bit of research to find a word that just feels right. Or you might like to have two at the moment, and we'll do a mind map. So if you have one, if you have a couple of words, that's okay. You might like to do these individually. A mind map is where you have a blank sheet of paper, you put that word in the middle of the paper, and you take a deep breath. And from there, you then extend that word from the center circle, and without any judgment or filter, what words come to mind? So just say you had the word honesty in the center. What words come to mind when you think of honesty, and this being your intention for the rest of 2026? And how do you want to show up? What would honesty look like? What would honesty feel like? What would honesty sound like? So using that mind map to really draw out and explore that word, and you'll notice as you start doing this mind map, if you've got a couple of words, there'll be one that really hits that spot that you're looking for. So if you do need to press pause, come back when you've done your mind mapping and noticing, is there one word that's really standing out? We'll do one more check. What does this word mean to me? So you may have, if it was the word honesty, what does that word mean to you at this time in your life? What is it about this word that is resonating with you at the moment? And will this word bring you closer to who you're becoming? So when we think of filling that gap to that person that we know we want to be, how we want to act, what we want to be doing, does it feel right? And sometimes with this word, people manage to try it on for a little bit. So you might like to have it written on a bit of paper. You might like to have it as a screensaver. You might pop it on a sticky note, sits on your mirror or your bedside table. I love popping it in my purse so that when I look at that word, it's that nice little gentle reminder. And this feeling and this sense that we're creating within this session, does that capture and does that bring me to that step closer to that person that I am becoming? So you might need to try it on. Now that when we think about the intention and the word, you've tried it, does it feel right? You've done some mind mapping. What we'll do now is we're going to pop it into a sentence. So my intention for the rest of 2026 is... And if I keep the honesty as an example, I'm going to mesh that with my intention from the beginning of the year. So my intention was about consistency at the beginning of the year. And it was about writing consistently and continually taking steps forward. So because honesty's come up for me, I feel like there may be intertwining of consistency and honesty. So my intention for the rest of 2026 is to write consistently and honestly so that I continually take steps forward with things that are important to me and settle into that authentic writing voice with a tone that feels right for me. So what's your intention for the rest of the year, and why is that so important to you? And if anyone has daily insight, I have my intention in daily insight. So when I do a daily meditation, I actually read this every day in there. So I'm going to update this within my daily insight, and I'm going to also have this written down on a bit of paper, tucked into one of my notebooks, or that I'll use as a bookmark for the rest of the year as well. So a few hints about how you might like to use it, and keep it visual or keep it there so that there's that gentle reminder. We're going to get curious now as we have a look at what is on the screen. This is about you starting to set some action steps and being really curious and going on an information seeking exploration and have those behaviors of someone who does take steps forward. What you can see on the screen is the 5's2 model of goal achievement. This is where you are today. You might like to map out on a bit of paper that you have a starting point that from where you are today, you may have a goal, a dream, or a vision of where you'd like to be. Some people can look ahead to 20 years or 2 decades down the track. For me personally, that may be looking towards, and I'm not going to say fully retired, but slowing down into and easing into a retirement. In 2 years' time, that looks very different to where I would also say 2 decades is going to look very different to how 2 months is going to look. So when we think about your hopes, your dreams, your vision for the future, how far in the future would you like to plot something along your map? You may have a particular point that you might like to get to, whether it is maybe you're writing a book, maybe you're doing some studies, maybe you have a particular goal to run a marathon. How far into the future is that goal? And where you are today, we're going to start setting those action steps of something that you can do today or tomorrow to bring you closer to that person you're becoming, to that step closer to that vision. So what I have on the screen here are some examples of the things that you can be doing. We've got the word observe, visit, listen, talk, write, read. Maybe you want to Google something or chat GPT. Or maybe there's something that you want to do, and that's going to be something that you're going to do today or tomorrow to take that one step closer to where you want to be, to fill that gap. And you may be thinking, okay, now that I've got a bit of an idea of where I am now, where I'd like to be in either 2 months' time or 2 years' time or 2 decades' time, I'd like for you to notice what may be coming up. Obstacles are going to pop up along your journey. You're going to have highs and lows, and there may be challenges that you'll have to face. So we're going to prepare for them. First of all, looking back, have I been in a similar situation in the past? What kind of hindsight and strategies can I bring into these steps that I want to take? Maybe you might also know what's going to get in your way when we think about those obstacles. Have you got 3 things that might get in your way? Most people might say time, money, resources, responsibilities, or even yourself that might get in the way. If we now flip those obstacles into ways to manage those obstacles, what kinds of resources do you already have that you know about? Maybe that might be mindfulness, journaling, speaking with a trusted friend or professional, reframing, which may be a tool that you'll pull out of your toolkit, maybe the tapping, or you've got techniques, maybe taking a moment to be grateful or to move your body in a certain way, or even to take a self-care moment. What kind of resources are you going to pull on to help you manage those obstacles that may get in the way? Another thing that we like to talk about in these sessions are your strengths. Yes, strengths can be another resource that can help you manage well as you're moving through this change and transition and working towards your dreams or your hopes or your vision for the future. And do you have 3 or 5 strengths that are popping to mind now that you may be able to identify? And those strengths, they help you understand who you are when you're at your best. Your strengths are innate abilities that you've had for as long as you can remember. And when you look back in the past, this is what has helped you get through a time in your life before. Let's pull on those strengths that are going to make you feel engaged and successful when you are at your best. When we work with our strengths, they help us make better decisions. They make us feel more confident. And it feels really good using our strengths. So I wonder, what strengths would you like to bring along this journey with you? I do have quite a few different ones on the screen at the moment. And as always, I've got my strengths cards with me. I'm going to pull 3 particular strength cards just in case that you may be looking at the screen going, yeah, I see kindness as one of my strengths that I'd like to pull on in this particular area. Maybe I'm really thoughtful, enthusiastic. That word honest keeps popping up for me today. I've just pulled 3 cards. One of the ones that has popped up today, and feel free to take this one, is the word thoughtful. Are you someone who is thoughtful and may need to draw upon your strengths in that area? The word neat has come in. Maybe that's a strength of yours and can help you through. And analytical. So thoughtful, neat, and analytical. Is that something that you may need along this journey? And that next step that you have been considering, I wonder what that will be. We're going to put that into a sentence. And so when I think about my intention for consistency and honesty in my writing, I will be spending at least 3 minutes each day connecting to myself in my journal. You want to make sure that your next step is achievable. And so we're going to do a little bit of a check now that you've got your I will statement. We're going to check in on your confidence. How important is it that you complete this next step? Rate that out of 10. How confident am I that I'll successfully achieve this step? And who do I need for support? And what will that support look like? If your numbers, especially for those ones that are out of 10, may be on the low side, you may need to just break your next step down just ever so slightly, because we want it to be achievable. We want it to be realistic so that you can achieve this small step. The last one is, how will you celebrate when you do achieve this small win? Whether that's taking a mindful moment, giving yourself a pat on the back, ticking it off your list. We want to create that momentum, that inner motivation, and also that sense of fulfillment that you achieved your small little win each day. So we're building that up, and that what you do today and tomorrow will help that future you in 2 months, in 2 years, and in 2 decades' time to get towards where you want to be. And so we've come to the end of our time together. Thank you for sticking around for this long. You've had a chance to look at the past, where you are now, you've taken stock, and you've also got more of an idea about your intention, and you've got that one-word intention, the statement, and also your next step. So you've done quite a lot for today. And I really hope that you found this episode helpful. I'd love to hear your reflections and what resonated with you the most. I'd love to know your one-word intention and your next step. Please email me. My email is in the show notes. And remember to share this episode with anyone who's looking for some life or career inspiration, as there's so many people who haven't had the career advice, education, and support they've needed along their career journey, and I'm here to provide that. And once again, thanks for listening. Your support is amazing and you are amazing. Together we'll navigate this journey as you find your way, rediscover yourself, and focus on taking the next meaningful step in your career.